Derby's Knowsley Hall and other stately homes had once boasted a menagerie of exotic beasts. Farm animals were also prized, particularly cattle, whose status was denoted by the extravagant opulence of the palace's dairy, where a fountain, which in any other place would have adorned the entrance to the mansion itself, was provided simply to cool the milk and butter. Whatever function they fulfilled, animals were part of the tenure of Winston's existence. He was brought up in symbiosis with the so-called brute creation. As a small boy, Winston was a keen bug hunter, adept at netting butterflies, dragonflies, and moths. Encouraged by his father, who was the 7th Duke's younger son, he later pursued game with hound, gun, and rod. He revelled in the excitement of the chase, telling his mother, Jenny, née Jerome, that fox hunting was the greatest pleasure in the world. In India, Churchill became an ardent pig-sticker. In Africa, he dispatched, among many other large quadrupeds, 3 rare white rhinoceroses. At home, he could blaze away at pheasants until it gave him a headache, or spend 6 back-breaking hours vainly casting flies for salmon. Often he was invited to enjoy the sporting amenities of Scotland, typically by his close friend Archie Sinclair, who wrote to him from Thurso Castle in September 1922. "The salmon fishing is sure to be good, the snipe are coming into the bogs. Edwin Montague and I shot 16 in 1.5 hours yesterday, and the light was bad, or we could have had many more. Stags are coming onto the ground, and we go after the grouse with dogs, or drive them according to the weather." All this was well calculated to appeal to Churchill, who rode to hounds, shot birds and beasts, and fished well into old age. Yet from his infancy upwards, Winston was devoted to domestic animals. He kept guinea pigs and tame bunnies, while slaying wild rabbits. He had an affinity with felines, and in letters home he signed himself the Pussycat. At St. George's, Ascot, his prep school, he was smitten by a dear little fox terrier puppy. At Harrow, he sold his bicycle to buy a bulldog, the purpose of which escaped his fond nanny, Mrs. Everest, unless it is to keep us all in terror of our lives. Churchill always found time for animals despite prodigious military and literary exertions, and a political career which saw him rise to glittering heights as President of the Board of Trade, Home Secretary, First Lord of the Admiralty, Minister of Munitions, Secretary of State for War and Air, Colonial Secretary, and Chancellor of the Exchequer. At Chartwell, the pocket Blenheim in Kent that he acquired in 1922, Churchill accumulated an extensive menagerie. He lavished care, cash, and emotion on the welfare of its inmates, whom became part of his extended family. Churchill's daughter Sarah rhapsodized over the advantages of their family life in the country, recalling especially the dogs and the nags, nice old tame hacks, which she called blackberry-picking horses. Nor did she forget her tortoise, Ptolemy, whom she ceremoniously buried in one of her father's cigar boxes, thinking it was dead, only to discover, when a gardener unearthed him from the rosebed, that he had been hibernating. After Churchill's defeat at the polls in 1945, Sarah comforted her darling, darling, darling papa with a delectable picture of his rustication at Chartwell. "No lovelier plot of land exists," she wrote, "and we could till the land and milk the cows and feed the chickens, and you could have an enormous bell you clanged when you wanted to see us." Dwelling amid fauna and flora, Churchill maintained, was the ideal form of existence. He went further, once remarking that the world would be better off if it were inhabited only by animals. Robert Boothby, his parliamentary private secretary in the late 1920s, exaggerated when he said that Churchill had little regard for human life, least of all his own, but that he would cry over the death of a swan or a cat. But it is true that Churchill's eyes filled with tears during the Second World War as he contemplated the effects of bombing not only on people but on German cats and Japanese dogs. He also